A humanoid robot just watched its owner fall asleep, quietly switched into a softer gait so its footsteps wouldn't wake them, and turned off the lights. Nobody told it to. No command, no wake word, it just read the room and made the call. And that's not even the wildest thing in this video. Because we've also got a robot that boxes with kids outdoors, dodges, kicks, and then lands a full backflip on grass. We've got DeepSeek quietly writing a check to one of the biggest names in Chinese robotics. And the reason why says something uncomfortable about where DeepSeek's actual weak spot is. And we've got a company in Oregon that thinks every single one of these demos is missing the point, that the real thing keeping humanoids out of the workforce isn't intelligence or batteries or dexterity at all. It's something so mundane you've probably never even thought about it. 3 companies, 3 completely incompatible visions of what a humanoid robot is even for. Let's get into it. Start with the one that's getting the loudest reaction, Dobot. The Chinese robotics outfit you probably know from their arms and their Atom humanoid dropped something called Dobot Lumo on August 6th, and they're calling it the world's first embodied all-terrain humanoid robot. Now, world's first anything in robotics is usually marketing spray, so let's look at what they actually showed rather than what they called it. The reveal video is the whole pitch. Lumo stands just under 1.3 meters, that's about 4'3", so roughly the height of a 9-year-old, which is very obviously deliberate. It walks across grass, it walks across sand, it walks across cobblestone, and it does it with a gait that doesn't have that stiff, over-damped, servo-holding its breath quality you get from most bipeds trying to handle uneven ground. It moves between outdoor, home, and office environments in one continuous run, and Dobot is explicit that there's no CGI, no conceptual rendering, no effects layer, it's all shot on location. That claim matters more than usual right now, given how much of this sector runs on carefully cut demo reels. And the demo doesn't stop at walking. Outdoors, Lumo throws hands with a kid, actual boxing practice, and the interesting detail is that its waist coordinates through the punch and the retraction, which is a genuinely hard control problem because you're managing balance through a rotating torso while your center of mass shifts. Then it dodges, kicks, and lands a backflip. Indoors, the register changes completely. It recognizes emotion off the user's face and voice, offers comfort proactively, and then nails a fairly demanding dance routine in time with music. And then there's that nighttime sequence. The soft gait, the lights going off, the whole thing happening in silence without a single instruction. That's the thing, Dobot is really selling, and their brand marketing director Xie Kaishuan broke the philosophy into 4 pieces. All-terrain space, meaning it isn't tied to one room or one building. Homes, malls, campuses. All-terrain role, meaning it swaps identity depending on who it's dealing with. Life buddy, sports playmate, science partner. All-terrain capability, meaning vision, voice, and motion, are fused into one stack so the robot moves from passive response to active perception and action. And all-terrain cycle, meaning it keeps iterating as the user changes. The more you use it, the better it knows you. Underneath all of that is Dobot's own full-stack model, the Kongyi Embodied Large Model. And they point at 3 breakthroughs specifically. First, multimodal emotion perception, fusing vision and voice to read what state you're in and respond with something resembling empathy instead of a command acknowledgement. Second, 3D spatial understanding paired with active action, which is where the high-precision navigation and obstacle avoidance system comes in. That's what lets it autonomously walk over to you to provide a service rather than waiting to be summoned. Their framing is basically that wherever you are, the companionship comes to you. Third, autonomous learning through a closed loop on real scene data. So it's continuously picking up your household's habits and, in theory, getting more valuable the longer it's been in the house. Who's it for? Dobot segments it pretty cleanly. Urban office workers get a life buddy. Greetings when you come home late. Emotional comfort. Low-stakes chat with zero social pressure attached. Young families get something closer to an older sibling. Sports companionship. Watching the kid, activity reminders, taking some load off the parenting grind. School-age kids get a science partner that answers questions, explains concepts, and runs educational games, which Dobot frames as a swap for the one-way fire hose of a screen. And then there's a 4th lane most people missed, commercial performance, stage partner. dance routines and rhythm interaction for brand events, trade shows, tech expos. There's also a serious education play bolted on here. Lumo ships as an embodied intelligence, teaching, and development platform supporting secondary development aimed at K-12, vocational schools, undergrad programs, and research labs. The experimental directions they list are exactly what you'd want for a robotics curriculum: basic robot cognition, motion control, embodied intelligence algorithms, SLAM navigation, visual perception, human-robot interaction. So it's a research platform wearing a companion robot's face. Here's the catch though, and it's a big one. Dobot has said a lot about AI capability and design philosophy, and almost nothing about hardware. We got the height, roughly, and that's it. No weight, no degrees of freedom, no payload capacity, no walking speed, no battery life, no word on the onboard compute platform. For a company claiming best-in-class, long-distance, multi-terrain walking, the absence of a runtime figure is conspicuous. Worth remembering, this is the same company that recently teleoperated its Atom Humanoid from 1,118 miles away, 1,800 kilometers, over VR, and had it cook a steak with pretty convincing precision. So the capability is real. The spec sheet just isn't public yet, which brings us neatly to the part of this industry where the hard problem lives: the brain. Because a robot that walks beautifully across cobblestone is still, at the end of the day, executing motion. Understanding an unfamiliar room and reliably turning "put that away" into physical actions is a different beast entirely. DeepSeek clearly agrees, because they just put money on it. According to a stock exchange filing, DeepSeek dropped 140.8 million yuan, about $20.8 million, into Unitree's Shanghai IPO. They picked up 933,399 shares, which works out to 2.31% of the shares allocated through the IPO's strategic placement. And crucially, it's not a passive check. It comes bundled with a partnership to jointly develop AI models for humanoid machines. Both companies are based in Hangzhou, which makes the logistics easy, and the division of labor is exactly what you'd sketch on a napkin. DeepSeek brings the models. Unitree, also known as Yushu Technology, brings mechanical engineering, motion control, and embodied intelligence. The filing also spells out mutual preference. Unitree will favor DeepSeek when procuring model training services and technical solutions. DeepSeek will favor Unitree when it's buying robots or poking at embodied AI applications. So it's a supply relationship as much as an equity one. The reason this is more interesting than a standard strategic investment is what it says about DeepSeek's gap. Their models have been genuinely excellent on coding, mathematics, and reasoning benchmarks, and they've been vicious on price. But that strength is concentrated in language model series. They don't have a flagship multimodal system that processes vision alongside text. They've released vision language research models, VL2 among them, but those aren't integrated into the commercial flagship. And there's a strange footnote here. Back in April, a DeepSeek researcher published work on improving visual reasoning using points and bounding boxes. And then both the paper and the official GitHub repo were pulled without any public explanation. Make of that what you will. Unitree is a plausible fix for that gap, because the bottleneck in this whole field is physical world data, and it's genuinely scarce. China has gotten very good at building relatively cheap machines that walk, run, and execute choreography. But choreography is a recording. Useful autonomous work requires models trained on demonstrations of manipulating objects and reacting to environments that shift underneath you. Which is why Chinese robot makers are now running dedicated data collection facilities where humans walk humanoids through the same mundane tasks over and over, folding clothes, opening doors, on repeat. Partnering with Unitree gives DeepSeek fleet access and a data pipeline. And this all lands as Unitree is targeting something in the range of a $900 million IPO, with robots moving out of demo territory and into real deployments. Now, over in Oregon, Agility Robotics is looking at all of this and saying, respectfully, you're all solving the wrong problem. Agility's chief business officer, Daniel Diaz, went on the Humanoid Daily podcast and laid out a case I found hard to argue with. The thing holding back large-scale humanoid deployment, he says, isn't skills, isn't AI, isn't batteries, isn't dexterity. It's cages. Right now, essentially every humanoid working a real warehouse or factory floor, Digit included, is operating behind safety fencing, physically walled off from the people around it. Figure, Apptronik, Boston Dynamics, and Tesla all have humanoids in somewhat shared settings, but nobody's fully mixed in with human workers yet. Diaz calls the fence a deployment tax, and once you frame it that way, it's obvious. It eats floor space you don't have, it disrupts existing workflows, and it kills deals outright, because plenty of facilities simply can't spare the square footage. Agility has had to tell customers to wait for the next robot. That next robot is Digit V5, going out to early customers in December, and Agility is calling it the world's first cooperatively safe robot, one that can work in close proximity to people while actively ensuring their safety. The stack behind that claim is a heavily upgraded software and hardware combination, a new algorithm that detects people through cameras and sensors, the perception layer to understand what it's looking at, and the physical capability to react in a way that keeps a human intact. That last part leans on hardware V4 already had, proprietary cycloidal actuators in the hips and knees that give it the strength and dynamic stability to react without dropping its payload or toppling over. Agility has tested this by literally yanking the rug out from under Digit. It takes a fast half step, catches itself, and the payload never touches the ground. Deez ties that directly to safety rather than treating it as a separate spec. Second upgrade, better battery life and quick charging, pushing Digit V5 to a 20-hour working day. That's not a bragging number, it's an economics number. Customers want one robot covering a 3-shift operation, and Diaz is blunt that the unit economics only get interesting once you're amortizing a single machine across all 3. Third, an ISO flange on the end of the arms. Standardized connector, which means Digit can tap into decades worth of existing end effectors instead of Agility building every hand from scratch. Eventually, it'll swap tools itself, already demoed. So the robot gets tasked, works out, it needs a different hand, walks over, changes it, carries on. That opens the door to finer work, like kitting and sorting on top of the bulk material handling it does now. Speaking of which, Agility picked bulk material handling as its beachhead on purpose, because that's where the labor gap bites hardest across the US, Europe, Korea, and Japan. Dull, dirty, dangerous work with high injury rates, high absenteeism, high turnover. On the speed question, because yes, some humanoids move slower than your grandmother, Deez points to Scheffler's plant in South Carolina, where Digit is loading greasy machine parts into an industrial washer right now. Digit V4 already feeds parts faster than the washer can ingest them. His argument is that beating a human isn't the metric, processing more work in the same window than the alternative is, and doing it below the fully burdened cost of a person you probably couldn't hire anyway. And all of this is happening under stage lights, because Agility is going public through a $2.5 billion merger with Churchill Capital Corp 11 under the ticker AGLT, the first US pure-play humanoid robotics company that'll report real financials. They're sitting on roughly $300 million in booked revenue across about 1,000 robots and 9 customer sites, including Schaeffler, GXO, Toyota, and Mercado Libre. Diaz's jab at the rest of the field was pointed. They're not the ones pumping out marketing videos. Removing the fences, he expects, opens entire verticals that were previously impossible, retail and pharmaceutical among them. 3 very different bets, all placed within about 96 hours of each other, and only one of them can be right about where this actually goes. Catch you in the next one.